and then they asked me to move on to Uber Eats. And in Eats, we expanded very aggressively across LATAM. So I think we launched at our peak. We were operating in 14 markets. I think we were able to launch 9 in 1 year. So my first year of being there was kind of really about continuing launching and growing that as aggressively as we could, because we knew that there was a first mover advantage and that mattered. We had seen it in Mexico where we had that advantage. We didn't have it in a market like Brazil. And the difference between one and the other was night and day. And so we knew it was important to launch and get there quickly.
So how do you launch a country? Like, can you just walk us through that process on a high level?
Yeah. So the first thing you have to do is start building those relationships with restaurants. So think about, we have enterprise relationships with Starbucks, McDonald's, etc. Having them and saying, hey, we now tell us your key markets and where you want to be operating was extremely helpful, so that we could use those as an entry point into a market. But you need to build out that mix, right? You have to, every time you open your app and you create a session, you need your enterprise accounts, you need those sort of big local favorites. And then you have to have the SMBs, right? The ones that are very close to you, fast delivery to the things that, you're used to eating in your neighborhoods. So building those restaurant relationships is fundamental to be able to launch a market. Then you got to build a supply. So you have to have enough couriers that are going to be available to do the pickups. And you have to have a mix of couriers, right? Because you have to think about 4-wheel vehicles for longer distances, cars. And we used a lot of the early supply from the mobility team to be able to launch that. But at least in LATAM, most of the people that are driving on the mobility side do not like doing deliveries as well. So we used them at the beginning, but we then had to build out our own dedicated supply. And you have to build it out with 4-wheel vehicles for longer distance, motorcycles to be able to kind of deal with a lot of the cities that have hills or difficult geographies, and then bicycles to lower the sort of entry cost for couriers to come in and start to operate. So with those sort of 3 supply types, you're then ready to go out and market to build an eater community. On the Uber Eats side, it was fortunate for us that we already had an established mobility business. So we were able to cross-sell as a sort of our first entry point into that. But then when the pandemic hit, that meant we had a huge surge in demand from people being locked up and at home and needing to eat. And so we were able to move past requiring, cross-selling into the mobility base to having a whole new source of customer acquisition and entrants that were coming in to get delivery because they needed that while they were